Good morning. My apologies for not posting many videos lately. Been a bit busy outside of internet life. But yeah, let's talk triple Qs. I'll just give you a little rundown of what I've been seeing. I try to only include stuff which is different to what other content creators come up with. So yeah, basically we've all seen the diamond top that's been called by a lot of people. I shorted the diamond, probably didn't get in on a great entry. The thing that showed me that we were heading into a bullish phase was this close below this protected low. So coming up, obviously we had a steep run and we had a little pullback and a break of structure. And once you have that break of structure, we call this now a protected low. So we had that little break of structure, we had the down. As soon as we've closed below that low, that's to me a signal that we have had a change of character. We've now gone from a bullish uptrend to potentially a bear downtrend, or we've become bearish. So generally speaking, what you would usually do is pull a fib as soon as we started retreating off that low and heading back up again. What you would usually do is pull a fib, and you'd say if you're going to short it, you want to be on the upper side of this 50% Fibonacci, but you're generally speaking, you're looking for a good position to start shorting inside this area here between the 618 and the 786. That's an ideal place, and what would have been a great spot if I was paying attention a little bit better is this area right here. It's a fair value gap, so this is where you've got a position where there's no overlap of the bodies of the candles, so that would have been the ideal position to short. And if you shorted in here and you got down to say here, and I'll show you why I expect that, you're looking at around a 9%, and if you're in the S triple Q, that would have been times by 3. You would have been looking at around 35 or 30%. 30% you would have been looking, probably like 28% or something like that, which would have been great, except I wasn't really paying attention. All I seen was the bullish structure, sorry, the bearish change of character here, and I ended up shorting. I think I ended up shorting around here somewhere, which didn't really give. And when I say short, all I did was I just whacked a heap of cash into S triple Q. Now I stayed in that position as it ran up, which really seen me make quite a little bit of reduction in my account balance. I was heavy in it. I was very happy to see that we didn't clear this high. Clearing that high would have negated everything, which is why you really want to look for something like this fair value gap and a retrace in between the 618 and the 786. So that would have been realistically the perfect place to short it. Yeah. If you short it here and then you break that high, you've only lost a small amount, whereas I was taking a very high risk shorting it all the way back down here. Yeah, anyway, I then followed it and down she came, and I was looking pretty good around this point. On this day here, I did actually draw in this trend line. Let's have a look at it. So I connected the protected low to the low that we got, our lowest low at that point. Brought it down, and I was looking down here as a place that I could bounce off. I actually only identified 1-2 hits, and then I thought that would be a third hit and a good bounce. But if you extend it back this way, you can see that these two actually kind of hit it too, so it was a bit more than 3 hits. But yeah, it was looking pretty good. Before I probably went the wrong way, but before I had established this trend line, I'd actually marked points heading down where I think we could possibly get to. And my first point was this minor pullback we had here. It's kind of almost like a break of structure here. It's not quite deep enough or whatever, but this was my first line of resistance, where I thought we could possibly come down and falter and then keep heading down. This was my most likely target. And this one here was the full play from the diamond top. And I thought to myself, well, if you get down to there, you'd obviously be eyeing off this gap as well. So I'd say that that gap would come into play, which would have been a fantastic short on that one. But you got to remember that this is the NASDAQ 100, and you don't want to stay bullish on the NASDAQ 100 for too long. That's my take on things. But I picked this obviously as a line of support, and we had this descending trend, and if you look, they both lapped over, and I actually picked that up at the close of this day, and I thought, you know what, I think this might be a spot where we retrace, and I was expecting it to come to this downward trend. So this downward trend, obviously we've come up, we've hit it once, twice, 3 times the lady, and I kind of expected it to bounce off that and keep coming down, and I was hoping for down here. I should have exited. What I should have done was exited at this point. I did see it, but I didn't exit. I was a bit lazy. I was in the middle of night shift and a bit busy changing some filters and stuff. So I would have liked to have at least rolled out to cash at this point and possibly jumped into T triple Q rather than being S triple Q. And that would have given me quite a nice ride up, and I would have been expecting to bounce off this back into S triple Q. However, I stayed in T triple Q, and on this day, which was, I think that was Tuesday night, on this day I was watching the pre-market, and I could see that it was going to open well above this line of support, and the order book looked quite full, and I thought, you know what, it's time to exit. So I put my sell order in, and I sold pretty much on the open, and I've gone from being I think down here I was about $23,000 up to being about $3 up. Sorry, $3,000 up. So I've, by not acting on this, I've sold myself short 20 grand. But you know, that's what happens with these things. It was a nice learning experience. But anyway, I now that we've hopped over this, and we've hit the top and started to retrace, can now apply a Fibonacci retrace onto it. And if you look, the 618 is where you usually get a nice bounce. It seems to be the most common. So if we draw the 618 there, we now also have another spot where we have lines of support converging. You could probably even draw that out a bit. I don't know if you can find any other support lines across there. But anyway, your downward sloping trend line, which was a line of resistance, has been jumped over and will now most probably act as a line of support. And it is also converging with a 618 retrace. We also have slightly below it, we've got the gap fill, and they're all coming together right at this common point. I've just drawn a bit of a shadow here as well, just to show where that's roughly where the candle is going to form tonight. And I would really like to see that drop back down to here. Me personally, I've got a little bit of cash to chuck in, which I'll probably drop in at this point. If we get there tonight, I'll be throwing a little bit of cash on that again. I've got a bit of cash in it already, but I will throw another little bit of cash in it there, hoping that I can pick it at the bottom here, reduce my overall cost base, and I hope that we would bounce off that. There's a few overhead resistance levels to get through. I think that's probably one right there. I reckon if we get through that and we clear this high, I'll be pretty happy. That means to me that we might be heading up, but we'll only be heading up to another line of resistance that would need to break through, which would be that one. Clearing that, to me, is all systems go. I think if we clear this line of resistance and clear that line of resistance, if we manage to blow through those, I think the triple Qs will be set to head up. Let's get them out of the way. Another thing which I think might be worth noting is I've got another line hidden here. It's one I wasn't too happy with, but I drew it in quite some time ago. So I've been watching a few people. Gareth Soloway, if you're not a follower of Gareth Soloway, I think you should probably jump on YouTube and have a bit of a look at him. He's quite good with his technical analysis. One of the things I picked up from him is he likes to pull things like this low pivot past a high pivot and see where it gets you. I wasn't too happy with this one that I've drawn, obviously because there was this massive fuzzy movement through here, and there was no real effect that line had on anything here. But regardless, I've had it in there. I've been watching it, and it also just happens to come down and be where this first drawdown hit was right on that line as well. And if you look, that's where we hit on this day before we jumped over it, and it also converges on our little spider web we've got going on here with all these lines of support. So to me, a lot of things indicate that this is going to be a very strong line of support. You know, I could be wrong. We could blow straight through it and head back down again, but I'm feeling like this is now recovering from being in its bullish phase, and this is part of it. I feel like it's going to bounce off that. Where will it go? Anyone's guess, really. But if you are now to take this trend line, which does need to be just a little bit because that's poking down below. I don't like to cut candle bodies too much, but you could adjust this if you were really that way inclined. Where would you end up? Somewhere like that. Doesn't make much difference. So yeah, if we take this trend line and this trend line, or you could possibly take this trend line. I don't know. Maybe you might do something like that, or you might just follow those two highs at the top. It is kind of making a little bit of a bull flag type pattern. It's not technically exactly the same, right? It's not a nice parallel channel, but it is a little bit bull flagish. So if we take our flagpole and we stick it roughly where the breakout was, and we say, it's going to sort of target around here. I did actually have another line drawn in here. I only just drew this one today, which gets you in that vicinity, which is, let's go back. Oh, let's make this a bit better. It's just from this pivot high to that pivot high. Oh, I really stuffed that up. My apologies. So yeah, from that pivot high, we could end up all the way up here, bouncing off this pivot high, and then we might come down and muck around down here again. But anyway, that's my target on the Qs at the moment. I am looking for a retrace back to this area, bounce, and up we go. Well, that was only 16 minutes. I do talk too long, sorry. I hope that makes for good viewing. Cheers. That's me on the triple Qs. Thank you very much. Have a good weekend.